What is going on, everybody? How are you all doing? It is Thursday, October 19th. It's almost spooky season. And today we have a guest, although he's not here yet. So technically we have a guest, but also technically we don't have a guest. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a link to his Twitter. And I think you guys should all go and message him and say, hey, go to this Candy Time show already. You're late. And then maybe that'll make him show up. Otherwise, we're just going to have to hang out and just talk about whatever until he shows up. That's how we roll. So anyway, what we're supposed to be talking about is Victor Wembanyama collectibles and the effect that we anticipate that might have on NBA Topshot, if any, the effect that it will have on physical collectibles, and a better understanding of physical collectibles compared to digital collectibles. That's what I was planning to talk about. So let's hope he does indeed show up. Let's hope nothing terrible has happened to him. And that's what we'll do. So for now, we'll just hang out. But anyway, happy So Rare Day for those who celebrate. Today was a So Rare stream. It showed some of our favorite creators in the space. I thought it was interesting. This year, it was sort of a less produced type of deal. Last year, it was Jay Williams in like a metaverse with like 3D walls all around him, and Rudy Gobert, I think. And it was just very, very polished. And this year, it was more of like a Zoom call, but it was still cool. It had Worldwide Wob was in there, John Nicholas, the guy who runs it. And then, of course, our friends of the community. It had Mike Zakarian. It had Jeb Bush. And it had TST. I was thinking about, it's not very funny, but I was thinking about like, what does TST stand for when it's a So Rare promo stream? Like, what would that stand for? What would it stand for? Top So Rare Talker. I don't know. Anyway, so that was that. And So Rare, I mean, we can talk about So Rare one of these days. I think it's interesting that the So Rare cards, the new ones, are a lot higher priced than the previous ones, even though the new ones, I believe, just give you a 5% boost. So there might be a little bit of arbitrage to be played if you're interested in doing that. Could be something interesting. So let's take a look at some of the chat while we wait for our guest, who will hopefully show up. Bad the Vine says, is it time to declare Halloween an international holiday? I think it is. I believe so. Stan says he pulled a Mets. Well, Mets has been on this show like 50 times, so I don't think so. Seattle says Mets is bipolar and he's a therapist. Poker Pro says this is Top Shot Day. Archive drop announced, the final one. That is true. The final archive drop has been announced. Boston Bay says, if I need a last minute guest, he's a Tatum expert. Well, I mean, if you'd like to come on the show and talk about Jason Tatum cards, sure. Vine says, I threw away my Summer League Wemby debut ticket and I'm wearing my Mets 92 jacket to shreds. Am I a good Wemby collector? Yeah, I think you might be the biggest Wemby simp that we've seen in a long time, at least in this chat. I mean, I know that you are trying to go see him live many times, so I hope that you get to see him live in the U.S. somehow.
Let's sim.
Let's sim.
Let's sim.
Let's sim. Let's sim. Let's sim.
Boston Bay says testicles. Stan says he pulled an AG. Well, AG did show up the first time. Mets does not like Seattle's comment. All right, so Boston Base has sent me an invite. I'll show you my cards. All right, so listen, if this Wemby fellow, Wemby210 on Twitter, if he's having trouble showing up or he dropped his internet or something, then we'll have to like reschedule and we'll just do it live. That's what we do on this show. We just do it live. So I will, if Boston Base does have anything interesting to say, because Boston Base actually does buy a lot of physical cards, actually. So maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something we can learn. And we will continue to wait and hold on. Yeah, I mean, Jeb, do you want to come and talk So Rare? I mean, Jeb, I'll send you an invite as well until our guest comes. Then we can have some ad hoc guests show up if that's the case. Jeb is probably on a high right now because he was talking So Rare today, and he probably has some things to tell us if he'd like to. Anyhow, what else, guys? Let's see what else we have. We actually do have a promo going on right now as well. We are very happy to have a promotion with a project that's on Flow. So I guess I can show you that right now as well. Let's take a look right now. Here it is. It is called the MFL, aka the Metaverse Football League. And this is actually pretty cool. For anyone who's ever played a football manager game, I know that some of you may have. There's some really popular ones out there. But it's very similar to that. And all the in-game assets you can buy and sell. You can also create your own club, recruit and transfer players. You can manage them. You can become like an agent. And if you go to my Twitter right now, there's a giveaway currently. And not only that, but we will also open a pack today. So it's pretty cool. I mean, there is some activity here and it's on Flow. And it's not a Dapper product, but it is on Flow. And what I think is cool too is you have these drops. You're going to have one in 5 days. And, you know, run of the mill. You got a whole bunch of different packs and pack prices. And what's cool as well, in my opinion, is that if you're just kind of looking to play the market, if you're just kind of looking to buy and sell players, you can actually go and take a look at what the history of their players' prices are. So like this guy right here, he's a 76. He has all these different attributes. And then you can check out his contract. You see that. You can check out like his skill by this radar, and you can compare him to a different player. And you can see what his last sales are. So this guy, that's the first sale on him. But look at this guy. Look how scared he is. Let's see if he has any. Nope, that guy doesn't. These are not good examples because earlier I did see one. All right, here's one. So this guy last was sold for $65 and now he is on the market for $88. So if you are like a clever agent and you want to play that game, that's something that you can do as well, or you can rip pack. So there's a lot of options. It looks like a pretty fun thing. If you want kind of a low risk type of deal, you can play different tournaments, see these different competitions. If that'll load. Yep, you see different tournaments. So if you want to play for like versus the most advanced competition, or if you want to play on the lower ranks, you can play all these different tournaments and matches. So it's good stuff. And I guess since we're talking about it right now, we might as well just rip that pack if I can make it happen quickly. Let's see if I can. I'm just going to log in, and it's super easy to log in. You just connect your Dapper wallet, and you're in. And let's check it out. So where's my HQ? It's right here. And let's open a pack. There's my pack. Let's claim it and let's open it. Well, hold on. You know what? Let me come back to that. I got to do something. So I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to come back to that in a second. And oh, we have Wemby. He's here. Okay. Wemby is here. Wemby 210. Should I call you Wemby 210 or should I call you something else?
You can call me Andrew.
Andrew. All right.
Yeah.
Andrew, thanks for making it. I was worried there for a minute.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. I had a little slip up on. I don't know if you saw the message. I said I'll be there in the 3:50 Eastern, and I was just not converting it over to mine. I'm one behind you, and my bad on that.
That's no problem. I'm glad that you showed up. I think the chat is glad that you showed up. I'm sure there's going to be some questions for you. So I guess let's just start out. First of all, you're the Wemby expert. How did you become the Wemby expert? How does someone become a Wemby expert?
So it is a little tongue in cheek, right? Like it's arbitrary, but I started looking just for the info myself, and it was sparse.
Yeah.
That he's had collectibles out. January was, am I losing you?
I lost you for a second, but you're back.
All right, cool. So his collectibles are pretty new, especially on the physical market. January, I think, is when the Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine hit, and that's really his first card that you could have gotten anywhere. And that was, off the stand, that was $5, and then they were selling for $20. They've gone up to 100, depending on the condition. Thousands already. Some of them have sold. The high grades, yes.
Wow.
And just staying ahead of the releases, following the releases. A lot of that just comes from following the cardboard market sources. Beckett and Card Purchaser is a really good one for just kind of like filtering and spreading that out. But it's just from kind of digging, kind of like journalism almost, following the sources down, following who actually hits the cards. I message them on eBay if they list them. I message them on Twitter if it's a hit on Twitter or Instagram, and just kind of get a sense of what the floor is selling for, what the floor is selling for, what the ceiling is selling for, and just following releases as they happen. And it's really just kind of like gathering intel, and just comes from an interest in it. I'm a Spurs fan, so we've been waiting for this a long time, and it's really something we've never had before, like a star coming in this hot. So it's just
what about
really
when you guys drafted Tim Duncan? Was that not a star coming in hot?
No, of course it was. And he did get, a red carpet rollout, but everyone knows his personality. He's pretty low key. So that kind of, went into a little bit of like, excuse me. It was kind of like behind closed doors a lot of his time with the Spurs. He wasn't in the spotlight, he didn't do commercials much after a certain time. And it seems like Wemby is pretty open to all that. And he's kind of got a little more personality, not to hate on Tim, but he's got personality, and also just the social media hype that didn't exist at the time. So we're going to be seeing him everywhere, his whole time he's here.
And so, all right. So then as soon as you knew that the Spurs had like a decent chance at the top pick, I take it that's when you started looking at who the top rookies were. And then you started like imagining that, oh my gosh, maybe we can get this freak of nature on our team.
I mean, that's pretty much it, just from being in the card market and on Topshot, it's usually the hot new rookies that jump at the beginning in value, and everyone's chasing them. And I was just looking ahead to that, whether we got him or not, knowing he was going to be probably the hottest rookie this year. On the Topshot end of things, I collected the rookie debut set. I got it locked twice. I got a full Spurs set locked. So just hoping to like get any edge I can to maybe get extra packs at that, or anything to get Wemby, because I know that'll be the chase moment for quite a while on Topshot. And but yeah, I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself because of course that the lottery odds weren't incredible. But as soon as we got that lottery day out of the way, it's been like just fully diving into it and always just kind of like keeping up with whatever Wemby stuff is going on.
So are you literally like picking up everything you can of his? Like, when Topps sold that baseball jersey Wemby first pitch card, were you like first in line? Are you buying like everything up, or how crazy are you getting in this in terms of collecting all this stuff?
So I have been stacking a lot of the base cards, just knowing that uh, since COVID, my main income has pretty much been setting up at card shows or selling on eBay. And
Oh wow.
so just, kind of following the trends. It happened with Luca, it happened with Zion, it happened with LaMelo. The market softened a little bit with Cade and Paolo last year, but there's obviously a little bit of a different aura and a different hype behind Wembanyama. So that just kind of makes it like a no-brainer, especially as a Spurs fan. But having something, the base cards are good because it's nice to have stuff to sell like at a low price point that kids can get and just casual collectors can hang on to. But there's also some value in it. We see things double and triple on the floor sometimes. And of course, there's the grading side of things. So if it's a good looking card and you want to try and get a 10, even the lowest base cards of Wemby right now in PSA 10s, go for like between 40 upwards of $100. So
Okay.
there's all sorts of ways to kind of get in with it, but it's a player that everyone kind of wants in their collection when the hype is big. So it's a kind of a safe bet, like a blue chip.
And why do you think so yeah, Boston, I had a someone in the chat who wanted to ask you this question, which was like, why do you think the newer rookies go for such a higher premium than like established players' rookie cards? Like, for example, why would Wemby, or maybe even not Wemby, because maybe that's a very special example, but like a Scoot, for example, rookie card might sell for more than like a Jason Tatum rookie card, or like a Steph. I don't know if it's a Steph rookie card, but it does seem that way. Why is that the case? Why do the newer players sell for so much more than the previous really good player rookie cards?
It's definitely coming down to like hype. It happens in all the sports. It happens in baseball and football. There was just an example. Ethan Solis in Tops, just the super fractor just hit, and he's 17 years old, hasn't played a game in the MLB yet. He's been in a few minor league games, but that card's already being valued close to $100,000, and
Holy shit.
I'm sure that's beating out all sorts of legends, like that have proven themselves, made the Hall of Fame. It comes from honestly the gambling side of things. Like that's a big part of card collecting is ripping packs and also just buying players young and hoping that something happens. But it's just kind of like the possibilities and like the hopes that people have. It's like it really is hype. It's and then people want to kind of be ahead of the curve when that stuff happens. If a rookie has a 50-point game or something and you already have a little stack, like that's a good time to probably let a few of them go.
Sure.
But then on the
Yeah,
flip
go
side of
ahead.
that, play like Tatum, I wouldn't say plateau because he's obviously like a top player in the league, but it gets harder to get another achievement under the belt, like to repeat as MVP or even get an MVP, to get to the finals, win a finals. You start getting measured like at a higher clip, and then it starts to be more like if you can see this player is not going to pan out to be someone like Jordan or LeBron, the interest kind of like wanes off a little bit. Whereas
Sure.
the rookies, they got 10 years ahead of them, so people seem to feel comfortable always putting their money there. We see many of them not pan out, and there's a lot of like collectors out there who have like really crazy stacks of they're worth pennies on the dollar now. there's more collections like that than there are collections that went 10x. But people just like the thrill of the chase, I guess, and the it's just like kind of like I said, it really is kind of like the gambling aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. So this is a Top Shot crowd. Why don't you tell us a little bit about first of all, I think the hot question is like what do you think like a Top Shot Wemby rookie card is going to go for, or a Top Shot debut? Have you thought about that? Are you going to be all over that as soon as it comes out, or are you going to sit on hands? What are you thinking
I
about
I
Wemby's
mean
arrival?
I will be, eyes on the moment it happens, refreshing the market, looking what happens. I don't know if I'll jump the gun and be one of the first buyers. Um, any pack I get my hands on, I'm probably gonna rip just for the chance. And then I'm sure Scoot will be pretty good. But I mean I probably right now, and I mean 200 maybe, I think.
Hold on, I think we got to play the beta
And
clip
there's
while hopefully his internet gets better.
Beta.
All right, I think he's walking to a hopefully
Yeah, I'm trying to
better.
get a little closer here, see if we can get a better space.
It's all good. So anyway, yeah, it's probably a better choice to sit on hands a little bit. But why don't you tell me also then, what has your experience been on NBA Top Shot? When did you join? I'm just curious because you are like a big time physical card aficionado. You go to the card stores. That's how you make your living. It sounded like you said you make your living going to the card stores and like flipping cards.
Yeah, and I do freelance video stuff too, but my main gigs has been, I accumulated a lot of inventory during COVID, just kind of like buying retail, buying stuff off eBay, and I have like more than I can deal with right now. But just I like setting up at card shows, kind of like getting it all taken care of at once, as opposed to like divvying it all up on eBay one at a time. It gets kind of tedious. That's how I started, but the card shows, have been just really nice, and then meeting people there, it's fun. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. And one of the something that we're always thinking about on this show is like, what do you think about the kind of collector that collects physical? And why does it feel like a very difficult bridge to cross for them to like understand or want to collect digital? Because my opinion is that a lot of physical collectors are kind of like religious about cardboard, and like anything else feels very far off. Do you share that opinion, or like what's your perspective on that?
So I got into Top Shot like January, February 2021. So fairly early, not the initial crowd, but I saw like a huge like rise with the prices on stuff, and then everything kind of come down to where it is now. But it appealed to me as a collector just from like the pack ripping experience, and I like kind of like the thrill of the hunt, and I liked how you could get rewarded for building out or completing collections or challenges. That's something that's kind of lost on newer cardboard collectors these days. I see a lot of older guys who like completing sets still, and they'll come to the table maybe with like a checklist of like who they're missing or what cards they're missing from certain sets. And you don't see that too much with like really anyone my age or younger. And I'm 36, but there is a split there. But I like that in Top Shot. It's a little manageable. Obviously, some sets are pretty insane, especially the legendary sets. But there's a collector for everything. Same in cards. That's why there's some card like there's boxes of cards you can get that are $5,000 a box, and you're only getting a few cards in there.
Right.
But it's kind of like the high limit room at the casino. There's like a price level for everyone, an entry level for everyone, where they're gonna like get excitement out of it.
But in terms of just that crossover though, like do you ever talk about NBA Top Shot when you're at these physical events, for example, or do you ever like engage with physical people who are buying physical cards and touch on like the digital collection at all?
Yeah, so I did set up about January through March, kind of like with the help of Top Shot. They covered some expenses and they provided me with packs to open with collectors there. I
Okay.
would say it was somewhat of a difficult sell to a lot of them. When I mentioned something free, they were interested in it. Like that was an easy way to get anyone's attention, really.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit of a split. There were some people that at the table hit like a 4 badge K8 or Palo, and I explained to them, I was like, that's a pretty big hit. That's like you could sell it on the market right now, 70, $80. And they kind of just were like, and they like shrugged and didn't even want to complete like signing up or take the moment into their account. And
Hmm.
there's like an equal amount of people that seemed interested in it, but some of them might have just been doing it, to get the freebie on the table and move on. But it's it's there's definitely like the tangible aspect that cardboard collectors still like, holding it, looking at it. And that was something a lot of maybe the older crowd would kind of bring up as a
Yeah.
reason why they weren't so interested. It's definitely something that like the kids kind of got, like anyone who was younger seemed pretty interested in it, and they talked about maybe something similar that they were playing or using online or something they had heard of.
Right.
And so I think as like the like younger collectors mature a little, I think it'll bring more into the digital side of things. But personally, I also like the moment ranks and this gamification, and being able to do something with the moments is fun to me. Which
Mhm.
there's something like that in Tops recently that didn't go over too well. The taco fractors.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were, people were chasing them for a while, not really knowing what they were, and it turns out it was like if one of those players is the first to steal a base in the World Series, then
You
they
get free
would,
diarrhea.
yeah, you get $15,000 worth of Taco Bell, and there was some people that paid like almost that much chasing a few of the cards, not knowing what it was going to be because it took them a couple months to announce that. Um, but the engagement before that announcement, was pretty high. It got a lot of people interested. So I think that's something that still keeps me on Top Shot, like setting up my moment ranks and looking at the challenges. And I don't compete in everything, but it's kind of like how I approach my fantasy team, like or being in a fantasy league. It helps me kind of keep up with the league without feeling like I'm trying too hard. It's like fun instead of just like crunching a bunch of games and watching highlights and everything like that. It's like based on stuff that I own or like I could sell, put on the market, and I do like that aspect to it.
And what about the aspect of, like, not having to get cards graded and have shoe boxes of inventory and, like, like, that's the part that I feel like that should make sense, and for some reason it doesn't to like, in my opinion, obviously to those older collectors, right? Like, that sounds like such a pain in the ass. Like, if I was dealing with physical cards like you do, buying and selling and shipping and eBay and going to the UPS or getting or printing out your labels and to me that just sounds like a lot of work. But obviously that's where like the liquidity is, that's where the volume is.
Hmm.
But in terms of if you're like an avid collector, I would think you could see the cool aspect of knowing exactly how many are of a particular card, let's say, exactly knowing like what they are selling for, not having to grade it, all that stuff. Like that makes a lot of sense to me, but I mean, it seems like we're just not quite there yet in terms of like mass appeal.
There is a card site that I've just started dabbling in, but I've known about it for a while. ComC, the check out my cards website. And they kind of work like that where a lot of people just keep their purchases like in vault
Yeah.
there because you save on shipping or you don't get charged fees or taxes or something like that. There's an incentive to just keep it there. And so there are collectors in the physical market that do work like that. So I think it just takes a little more time. They just need to see other people doing it, kind of other people doing well at it. And
Yeah.
I think obviously like the athlete endorsements never hurt. So the more athletes that get behind it is always good.
But I think you're right. I think a big part of it, and it's so like rudimentary and basic, but it's like if there's so much of card collecting, my opinion is like speculation. Like that's so much fun. It's like, oh, I can buy this guy early and he might be worth 100 times what he's worth now if I hold on to him. And I can rip a pack and crack something super valuable. Like so much of it is gambling. I mean, like just calling it what it is. And I think that if, people say it's not sustainable, but like if that is what makes news and if that's what gets people interested, then it does feel like that's kind of where it sort of has to go in a way. Like it almost like you have to have some part of that happening, but at the same time, your other things that get people to stay and get people to like value their collection and want to play the games and all that. Anyway,
Going back,
let's see.
going
Yeah,
back
go
to what
ahead.
you said real quick on like keeping track of counts and like knowing kind of what the market is and what exactly everything's going for. Um, that's one thing that has been difficult about some of keeping up with the Wemby cards, like from Tops, because it's they print kind of like what's in the sets, and they they tell you the odds, but you don't know all the numbers on like how to figure out how many boxes exactly are out there, or like what some of the short prints, like what they're numbered to, and it does create a little bit of a fun mystery. And I get that they want to keep their products like having some life on the shelf without everything good getting pulled, but it's also nice to know exactly kind of what you're dealing with specifically. Like, and it goes same for the other cards. There's some people like to use eBay and other people like to use different sources, and some people argue about what prices on eBay are more valid, buy it now, or sold prices, auctions, whatever. So it's kind of never ending in the way that goes. But also having the wiggle room, on the cardboard side is always fun. But there is like a market there for just the people who want to know exactly what they're looking at.
Sure. But you make a good point, which is like you don't really ever truly, it seems like you don't ever truly understand how much supply is out there. And also, I'm also seeing these things on Twitter where like one of ones are printed like 3 or 4 times. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tops
It
has
just
been caught red-handed, I guess, like maybe by accident doing that, but who knows? But there's quite a few baseball and soccer cards that, yeah, there's double 101. So you don't know exactly what to trust off the assembly line, even, or, you know, like another one, there was a scandal in Pokemon where someone off the line was taking all the hits, like they took a huge chunk out to where some of the public claimed that they'd noticed like how light the hits were in that. I think it was a fusion strike for Pokemon. So that kind of like criminal element or the corruption side of things is always, it always turns people off on the physical side. There's a lot of complaints you'll see about anytime that happens. Like people love to outrage about those things on Twitter,
of course.
especially.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember, but like, what's his name again? The Fanatics guy, and he had some like random packs that he brought to some ex soccer player, and of course it was like the
Uh,
biggest hit possible. I don't know if you remember that video.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I mean,
see
there's
that one, but I'm guessing
yeah.
probably Michael Rubin, the Fanatics guy.
Yes, that was
Yeah,
it. And he ripped like the Hank Aaron or something like that. He ripped some like really big rip, and they both ripped these crazy rips. It's like, of course that was staged. Like, I mean, what kind of idiot would watch that and think it wasn't?
yeah. And then
But it just seems like there's so much demand that it doesn't matter. And like that's kind of what I scratch my head about, which is like the physical world, they can get beyond all the double printing, all like the scams,
mhm.
whatever. It doesn't even matter because there's so much demand. Like all the demand secures everything.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Um, let's see. Well, we have a few questions in the chat. Let me try to catch up here. So Topshot Tesla asks, how easy is it to get an edge in cardboard? Does the price constantly staring you in the face on Topshot hurt it for that reason? So the fact that you can instantly see what your Topshot moment is worth, and instantly someone undercuts it and the value goes down
Mhm.
immediately. Like, does that affect the fact? Does that make it much harder to get an edge? Whereas in cardboard, it's way more slow moving.
Yeah, I think I agree on that because in cardboard, I think the best edge you can get is by like babysitting auctions. And then a
Mhm.
lot of those end up disappointing because you never know maybe how many people are lurking that auction, and in the last 10 seconds, there's like 20 bids on it. Every once in a while, I mean, well, all the time, you will win auctions like that, but it's a volume game. Like you got to spend a lot of time doing that to hunt them down. Um, but I think if you a lot of it's luck. So really accumulating like a collection is really kind
Mhm.
of where you're going to start seeing dividends in cardboard, because it's always kind of like random. You can never really predict what's going to be hot. Sometimes it could be like, Deion Sanders cards right now because of his success coaching.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and that's, so there's all sorts of like peaks and valleys, but you can even collect, uh, a variety within just a player or a team. But that's kind of like, so I might have lost the train of thought there a little bit, but
It's all good. Here's some more questions for you. So you play fantasy. Bad Divine wants to know who's your sleeper this year. Do you think about this? Like, are you playing So Rare, or do you have a take on So Rare?
so I haven't gotten into so rare. As far as like digital goes, like pretty much haven't crept more beyond it than Topshot. So
Mhm.
I can't speak on so rare. In fantasy, I mean, honestly, last year I missed my draft and got auto draft, and I ended up second. So
Wow.
yeah, it's honestly fantasy basketball is about streaming. You got to really stay on that on a nightly basis and not let anyone who goes on the IR or unavailable slip into your roster. That's really the key.
Sure. Let me see what else, if I missed anything else in here. Um,
I think I saw someone earlier ask about actually where to find some of the Wemby cards, like
okay.
in retail and whatnot. I think that was Boston based.
Mhm.
Um, so their Walmart and Target has retail that's going to be coming out throughout the season. It's probably going to be later from Panini. Usually, Panini with their basketball releases don't start until January, almost playoff times for some of the bigger stuff like Prism. So it's going to be a gap. And there's some stuff from Tops out right now, which is Allen and Ginter and
Mhm.
Bowman Chrome. You can find those really. It's going to be sparse, but because people have probably hit up the shelves for these already. But if you get familiar with kind of restocking or just honestly checking occasionally, you'll find it. And then, of course, hobby shops are going to pretty much always have something on deck, but their prices at the hobby shops sometimes can be steep. And if you just compare to eBay or a website like the Card World, you're probably going to find some better deals here and there. Now, some of the shops run promos. Like we have one in San Antonio where if you hit a Wemby in shop, they'll give you a $5 cash bounty on top of obviously keeping the card. So it's always a good idea to hit up the hobby shops too. And those people are always insightful, and they can tell you about what's coming out or what you can get, what the odds have been like in the boxes and stuff like that.
Sure. So we have an important question here from Stan. It says, what do you think about the fist bump? So you're going to watch this video and then give me your feedback. Here we go. This is one of the content creators meeting with Jacob Eisberg, he's one of like the head people on the Top Shot team. So give me your feedback on this handshake.
So I appreciate it. Yeah, man, that was an awkward fist bump. Don't clip that. Don't clip that. Just gonna clip that. It's gonna go viral. Jesus Christ. No, I appreciate it. It was weird.
You know, uh, I'm not going to rate it, but I will admit I've had quite a few fist bumps like that myself, so I can't hate on that. It's about acknowledging it is important. Like that's always going to save you because then you can just laugh it off.
All right. I appreciate that. Vulnerability, honesty, nice breakdown. Thank you. Top Shot Tesla asks, what do you think Top Shot is? That's like a Jason Metz question. And how do you describe it to older cardboard collectors?
That's a good question. Trying to think, it's been since March when I was like actually kind of like doing it once every other weekend or so. But I kind of would say like it's kind of like collecting fantasy players. I would really hype up kind of like the challenges and how I like to play moment ranks and set my lineups. And then also, I mean, the pack experience is fun for everyone. It seemed like that was like always a draw when I was ripping the packs at the table. Um, and that was kind of something that Sean Packrip suggested, show the rips like at the table and get the people kind of involved and doing it themselves. And it was, you know, it, it was, we probably got only about 10% of the people who came through the table in the end to like really sign up. And I don't know how many people stayed with it, but just kind of like honestly pitching it as fun. Like if you have fun doing it, then letting someone else know how you're enjoying it or what you like about it is really kind of the best way to explain it, because everyone's going to have a different take, because it is still so new and people approach it differently. So just like explaining like what you like about it or showing like the aspects you like is probably the best way to explain it. And there was a couple of gentlemen that were probably in their 60s that seemed interested, like they signed up, they ripped the packs. And there was a shop from New Orleans where the guy was probably in his 60s that was interested and thought that maybe that'd be something he could add in his shop. He liked the infinite objects. He liked that you could display it too. So I think that would be an important part to like also like get across, is that when we haven't really talked about till now, is like you can kind of display them and you can do something with them in the real world. And then of course there's the the perks you get from owning the sets, or like being part of like a team group.
Sure. So Jumpshoot just gave us a super sticker. So what we have to do there is we do this. Ice cream so good. Thank you, Jumpshoot. Yum yum. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jumpshoot. All right. Next, we have another question here from Topshot Tesla. Topshot having 10,000 users with millions of NBA fans around the world. Where do you think the biggest disconnect is, and what would be your first move as head of Topshot to increase new users? So in this case, your new name is Roham.
Rohan.
All right,
Cheers.
so I'd have to just play it as a numbers game, honestly, and just see if I could bridge it into the Chinese market, because I don't think it's any secret how many NBA fans there are over there. There's actually a huge card collecting community in Asia. Some of the biggest collections of like 90s players you see posted on Instagram are from guys over there that have just like really epic collections. So I would say tapping in over there would be kind of my first move. And um, since it's all numbers and on the blockchain, I think, if you just get a little coding in there to, get into Mandarin or whatever you need to, that should probably take off pretty fast.
All right, so when China. So let's go back. Actually, we're going to rip a pack right now. This is actually a football manager pack on MFL, which is the sponsor of today's show. PlayMFL.com. Here's the pack, everybody. I'm going to show you what that looks like when we rip a pack. So let's do it live. So you can't see this, but it's the little Dapper login thing. It's coming on. Here we're going to confirm. And let's go rip our pack and let's check it out. So we're hoping to get, I don't know, some high numbers here. Let's see what we get. China. And Topshot Tesla says, it makes sense that the dude in his 60s liked the infinite object, aka the digital picture frames from the early 2000s. All right, here we go. Here's our players. Let's hope for something good. Big money. First. That guy looks pretty cool. Damian Pintos. 73. I think that's pretty decent. Okay. Next. This guy looks more basic. Manuel Cataneo. Left wing. 48. That guy needs some help. He needs some training. And finally, this guy with the nice hair. Tobias Dissing from Denmark. Left middle back, I think. 54. All right. So there you go. There's the pack opening experience on PlayMFL. And again, if you guys are interested in this, you can check out the upcoming drops. It's in 5 days. And that is for the football fans of the group. All right. Back to the matter at hand. Let's see. Anything here? Okay, yes, Ginobili Paraguayan. So you worked for the Spurs. That's something else that's kind of interesting about you. You used to work for the Spurs. Why don't you tell us a little about that? I know that I asked you if you ever were able to talk to Kawhi, and you said no. So that was definitely that made
Yeah,
me a little
yeah.
sad.
He was pretty well barricaded from the media and the likes of people like me.
Why was that?
It was just the culture at the time. It was almost all the players. There wasn't really so my time there was from the 2010 to 2014. So um that was kind of the height of the big three almost kind of being legends, and they got their way. They didn't want to deal with media. They didn't like really want to do too much silly stuff. Um, which is kind of like, I think it was just, the times. Social media was still kind of in the infancy there. And it seemed a little more invasive at the time, probably to those guys. Um, but Kawhi was just shy. I don't think it was anything he wanted to really do himself. So it's kind of like if you told the Spurs that you didn't want to engage in the media or whatever, they'd find the guys who like talking, and they'd kind of give them to us. Like, so we get Danny Green a lot, or Manu was pretty good about it, but there was not a lot of like expectations that they were going to do like all the media stuff.
And what were these
to the-
what were these videos for that you were creating?
So I did a show called Spurs Insider on Fox Sports at the time. They're Bally Sports now, but it was kind of like a magazine style show where we covered basically everything aside the gameplay stuff. We would do a little we were a weekly show, so we'd recap like the games in about a 90-second segment, and then everything else was kind of about like community outreach or like personal stories from the Spurs or interesting stories from fans in the community.
That's cool. Um, what else, guys? What other questions do you have in the chat, fellas? Let's see it. Matt Bonner, Topshot Tesla wants to know about Matt Bonner. Did you have any fun experiences with Matt Bonner?
He was always friendly with the media. He didn't really jump into the fold of things until maybe like a year or so after I left, so I didn't work closely with him. The host of our show was Bill Land, so that was kind of like my biggest like inside ticket to everything. Like, he was really cool to be around. Super nice dude. Sean was pretty cool too, but it was kind of like same thing. Like, if you had like put in work in the Spurs, like you kind of called your own shots. So like, I know like Sean Elliott sometimes would be rolling up like minutes before they needed to go on air, whereas like Bill, is there like 2 or 3 hours early, ready to cut audio for us and stuff like that. So there's definitely like a little bit of a insiders club there in the Spurs.
I see. So Spurs Top Shot is here, and they are asking Sochan. How do you pronounce that? Jeremy
Sohan, or he just
Sohan.
did an interview recently where he said specifically that Sohan is how it's pronounced in Polish, but if you were to say it over here, Sohan is fine. So he said either way is cool with him.
So who do you like more at point guard? Him or Trey Jones?
There's not a lot of data yet on Sohan at point guard, but I'm all for the size and the experiment. Like, I like the lineup that they rolled out with last night, and I think that's going to be really exciting for the fans.
I saw the Wemby doing the nutmeg or whatever you call it, the ball between what this guy is like an alien.
It's going to be a highlight reel all season. That's kind of like another thing, going back to it's new in terms of, Tim was the big fundamental. He wasn't flashy in his gameplay. It was about winning, but it's almost like inevitable from this guy that like there's going to be a highlight a night.
What are you concerned at all though about how, I guess maybe you shouldn't be because he seemed to play healthy for France, but like, are you concerned when you're that big, just getting pushed around by like these big NBA players and how fast paced it is and how just how much it is on the body, and like the dude looks like he's 10 feet tall, just so lanky, although he did gain 30 pounds apparently. But like, what are you have concerns there?
I think everyone looks at someone that tall and they think of some of the players that have historically had problems like Yao Ming or Greg Oden. But as a sports fan, I don't look look at or even really get into predicting injuries because some of the more unsuspecting players can have really bad injuries too.
Yeah.
Guards can have, career-ending injuries. So it's not really just something to harp on. If it happens, it's something to talk about when it does happen. But it's not something I'm really worried about. I heard stories of how, this has been in the back of his family's mind for a while on getting his body right and fine-tuned. So it's you look at LeBron James and his longevity compared to some of the players that he started with who were legends at the time, and not quite as many, can say they've gone that long. So I think there's the science and behind medicine, sports medicine and stuff like that is going to go a lot longer with someone like Wemby.
Yeah, I hope you're right. But LeBron James is built like a jacked cornerback or something. Wemby, I don't know. He
Yeah,
doesn't have a position on a football field. But anyway, yeah, I hope you're right. It's very cool to see. And what are you expecting in terms of like a realistic expectation of how the Spurs do this season?
I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Play-in is a possibility, but I think honestly, Wemby not getting Rookie of the Year will be a disappointment. I know that Chet Holmgren obviously is going to give him a run for his money and maybe even Scoot, or of course sometimes there's a dark horse. But I think Wemby is going to be pretty convincing on the defensive end, to the point where if he can hit the 65 game threshold, maybe, at the end of the season, he could be in the discussion for an all defensive team, which would be kind of hard then not to give him Rookie of the Year if he was able to pull that off. But I think it's going to be more about his defense throughout the year, really, than the offense, especially with like Vassell.
Mm, mm. Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch if it's going to be him or Scoot even or Chet. What are your other NBA takes? Do you have any other spicy NBA takes for the upcoming season? Do you have
Spicy NBA
predictions?
takes, man. I think the Suns are gonna be a disappointment. I think
Oh, that's spicy.
I think they're unbalanced now, and man, it seems like there's been a cloud following Kevin Durant around for a little bit now. So I don't know, man. They could be a first round exit, something like that this year.
Well, that's very spicy.
Spicy.
Yeah, that's very spicy. I think you're definitely in the minority. I think what do you think makes them such an unbalanced team? You think they just don't have enough defense, or their bench is weak? What do you think?
I'm never a big fan of like too many offensive players on the same team, and like they got three scoring machines now. It's like who maybe they can take turns every night, but they're not all going to get 30 every night. Like they
Of
would
course not.
probably. And I'm obviously talking about Booker, Durant, and Beal. I
Right.
think them on almost any other team, they could probably get 25, 30 a night, but it's going to be like a lot of back and forth. And if things don't go well, I don't think Kevin Durant will be too happy there.
Well, ever since he went to the team that beat his team, that had all like the beautiful story of the Oklahoma Thunder, and he just gave up and left for the people that beat him. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a
that was just
bummer.
like the
And
weakest move of all time.
there was some talk that he was, or possibly considering the Spurs that summer too, and maybe Tim Duncan would have stayed longer if he did that. So a little sore spot there. I'm not a huge Kevin Durant fan. I respect the game. He's obviously one of the all-time greats, but he's like a little childish to me off the court.
Yeah, his Twitter burners.
Yeah,
And what about like what are your other predictions? Do you have any other interesting predictions for the year? Like what's your finals?
man. I saw finals. I really haven't given it much thought yet, but um, I mean, I wouldn't go against the Nuggets making it again.
I agree.
I mean, man, Jokic is going to be hard to stop.
Yep.
And then in the East, I mean, I think Porzingis has had a tough run for a while, but I think he's going to probably do well with the Celtics lineup. So
That's the right answer. So you have the same finals as me. That's great. And
okay, yeah,
who's
not
winning?
bad.
Who's winning
Yeah,
that finals?
I wouldn't mind. It got a little dry that 4 years when it was Warriors, Cavs every time, but there's
I
also
agree.
like a lot of nostalgia in there. So I wouldn't mind another kind of like rivalry build up in the finals.
So who's the new rivalry then? Nuggets and
I think Nuggets and Celtics
then we just see Nuggets and Celtics for the next like 6 years. That'll be great.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that many, but I did see someone, this card guy I follow on Instagram, C Blaze. He's been posting a lot of gambling recently, and he took Zion as MVP,
Oh wow.
which
Oh,
you know,
oof.
uh,
That's no
he's
way that's happening.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I like it. I like we have some strong takes here because then I can come back here in like a few months and say like, "Wow, we didn't know what the hell we were talking about," or
mhm,
"Wow, that guy's about to bank on that Zion pick." That would be crazy though if Zion won the MVP, especially after the offseason that he's had. But he's looked like he's in shape all of a sudden. He put down the Mountain Dew. Maybe he's not like inviting the thoughts over all the
yeah.
time anymore. Maybe he's like correcting his bad choices.
Man, New Orleans is a tough franchise to play for. Like we've kind of just seen a lot of players get burned out there. Um, they I've heard that they're part of the same group that runs the Saints, and a lot of the priorities go over across the way to the football stadium and the football team.
Yeah.
So I would like to see Zion somewhere else eventually, because I don't think
Yeah.
the Pelicans are it for really anyone.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, he's such a big name. Even if you went for the godforsaken Knicks,
I know,
like
right? Like, yeah,
Um, so let's see what else. Ginobili Soares asked an interesting question here, and I know we've sort of alluded to this already, but like, how many Wemby cards will be printed? Do we have any idea of the supply?
we can, build it backwards from looking at odds on boxes to a degree, and then you can look at the all the different grading companies and what they have in their library. But then there's also what's floating out there, and you can never get quite on it. But honestly, several million most
Oh
likely
my
if you
God, that's
if you
so
add up
crazy.
all the base. Yeah, we're probably already at around a million right now. Maybe slightly under that, but just the tops now and the Panini instant cards is like just under a quarter million. So there's going to be a lot, but we saw probably that many cards with Zion. It does go up every year, but Zion has like I think the most graded card at PSA, and that's just his Prism card. So throughout the year, both Panini and Topps will release all sorts of sets that are each going to have hundreds of thousands of cards amongst the country, and sometimes they're global releases. So yeah, there'll be a ton of cardboard printed with Wembanyama, and all the other players too.
See, that's why to think that there are 4K rookies on NBA Top
Right.
Shot, like that should blow the mind of everyone who wants to collect something scarce. Instead, they're chasing these guys that have a million additions.
No, that's why I'm looking forward to the Wemby rookie debut, and I like how it's a set now and not just kind of like part of the base set. Like that's part of what was my appeal to collecting it last season. And yeah, just like I'm looking forward to what play it's going to be. It's going to go down next week. Like we know it's going to be in the first game, so it's just a matter of if it's going to be like a slam dunk or alley oop or like a game winner. Who knows? So just looking forward to that. I'm going to be at the game.
Oh wow.
Like last year, I was at opening game, so I saw Sohan's debut moment in person. It's cool. That's another cool aspect of Top Shot is like the actual moment aspect of it. Like so many cards are posed like on media day or just taken from a random game where there's no significance. So a lot of the Top Shot moments are cool that there's like historical stuff, behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so cool that you're there and you get to just see all these games because that's going to be one of the most hottest tickets all season long just
Yeah.
to watch this freak of nature.
Yeah, the day when we got the lottery pick, like I was at one of the bars where it's called the Rue Pub here in town in San Antonio, and the deal was that if the Spurs got the number one pick, all the tabs up to that point would be forgiven. They're free, so all the alcohol and food, and we didn't go too crazy. I was there for like an hour, got a couple drinks and a quesadilla. So I didn't want to push my luck with it, but man, that moment that when we knew we got number one, like it really felt like winning a championship almost. Like,
That's crazy.
and we've won a few, so it's like, not to diminish any of those, but like I said, in the day and age of social media, and with like him being as hyped as LeBron or Zion, like it really did feel like winning a lottery ticket.
That's awesome. All right, well, we're about an hour now. Chat, if you have any more questions for Wemby 210 about physical and digital, about Wemby, about the Spurs, about Topshot, now's your chance to ask your questions. And then we'll let him enjoy the rest of his day here. So ask away, folks. Let's see what else we got here. If I missed anything.
So I think on Twitter,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. There were some questions on
yeah,
Twitter.
Uncle Drew, I think our team captain also asked about, what I was looking forward to like bridging my Top Shot collection into like, leveraging that into some IRL stuff. And he's taking care of us. The last year, we had tickets and meetups and all sorts of cool events. So that's part of why I'm like glad to be positioned as a Spurs fan on there. With the like I completed all the Spurs sets. It's pretty manageable, obviously, compared to some of the other ones, and got the rookie debut set. So just hoping, that there's any kind of like reward or a contest pool or something just to up my odds, because you really, like we touched on the taco fractor earlier, but there's not too much to do that with in the card world, where you can like take something like one of your big hits and get to go to a game where do anything really besides just sell it. So
Yeah.
or admire it and keep it in your collection, of course, too. But
Yeah, of course, and that's the whole utility debate around like NFTs in this case, and what utility does. But it is cool how we've seen that it really does give you some in-person, real-life utility. Uh, Anyhow, another question here on Twitter was, so Chubert asked, "Is there any NBA player with under 10 years experience that has a rookie card worth more than a Wemby rookie?" I would imagine not, because of the hype and speculation, but is there anyone like
with
Tatum, Luca, Morant,
yeah, actually,
Edwards?
pretty much all those guys are, only because
They are
right
worth
now,
more.
yeah, there's some, they've had their bigger releases already come out. Like National
Okay.
Treasures is one of the biggest ones from Panini, where you're gonna have like a patch, a game worn patch, and an on card autograph, probably numbered, um, and all the way numbered down to one. Like I think Lucas had a card or two sell for six figures, or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, seven figures, $1 million.
Yeah.
Um, when the cards that are out for Wemby right now, especially the autos, are primarily, um, they're not considered like pro rookie cards, because he's not in his Spurs uniform for them,
Sure.
and he's in like a Mets 92 uniform for most of them, or in Allen and Ginter, he's just in a kind of generic black uniform. So it will take a while, probably till like the Prism set comes out, National Treasures stuff from Panini that'll come out later, probably in the spring. And it'll depend on his gameplay, but if he's like on the path to be rookie of the year, then yeah, he's gonna already be competing with some of those guys. But there is a little debate or uncertainty this year, because Wemby is signed with Topps, and I believe Scoot also. So usually that means their autographs are going to be exclusive to that product, and Topps doesn't have the NBA license right now, so we might not get the autographs where he's in a Spurs jersey. And just in the collecting world, it's just how it is. But pack pulled autos carry a way higher price than like getting a card signed in person. That'll add a few $100s to whatever card, but just the pack autos are really like what everyone's looking for. And we don't know if we're going to get that in a Spurs jersey this year. So some of the autos that are out right now could see like a pretty big spike as we find that information out, or they could go down and lose a little interest in what's out right now, because there'll be bigger and better cards coming out later with those releases.
So does that mean this National Treasures won't have his Spurs jersey?
It should have a jersey. I don't think there's any problem with them getting the jerseys. And he'll be wearing the Spurs jersey and all the Panini stuff. But since he signed an autograph deal with Topps, Panini might not be able to have him sign their cards through any of their releases this year. And there's also some controversy because Panini has been like back and forth in litigation with like the NFL Players Association and the
Right.
WWE. They've kind of just more or less, I wouldn't say ignored it. They got a judgment that lets them continue to print that stuff, but obviously people are not happy with really the quality and the product that Panini's put out over the last few years, and everyone's kind of waiting for the license to switch over to Topps, which Fanatics has secured a few years into the future, but they're working to try and get it. So it's a possibility that Panini might not make it to some or all of their releases, and it's just really kind of like a mystery right now. Whereas like the year when Zion's cards were coming out, like everyone kind of knew what's next, what was going to be coming out next month. And right now there's a little bit of like a cloud or a shadow over that.
Do you think we're going to see a $1 million plus Wemby card sold this year?
No, I don't think this year, because the market overall is just a little soft right now compared to the
Right.
peak about like a year or two ago. So not a Wemby card, but I would definitely could see a six-figure, $100,000 to a $200,000 card go for
Yeah.
him. Basketball is a little bit I wouldn't say slower, but it doesn't have the reach that baseball and football cards have. There's a little bit more frenzy for those. But when there's a superstar coming up like Luka, Zion, like that's usually what brings people back into basketball cards. So I've already seen just like a little effect, though, from the Wemby effect of Spurs Legends, like cards that I've been watching on eBay that have been sitting there for months and months, like starting to one by one get picked up at the floor price. So he's definitely like excited the fan base here, and like there's a lot of nostalgia coming back, and it's like a good, like about that little generational gap where a lot of people can now teach their kids about the Spurs and they get to watch a team that's exciting. So I think there is going to be a lot of movement just with basketball and Wemby when the season gets rolling. I think right now, just because he hasn't played, probably a lot of people who are going to end up collecting Wemby aren't even aware of his cards right now. Like they're probably not even going to think to start looking them up for another couple weeks or months.
Yeah. So Bad Divine has a question, and then we have Boston Base will ask a question in a minute. But you think Wemby will play for France? Belgium, Cameroon, or the US in the next FIBA?
I think he will do France.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, he seems to be pretty plugged in there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Boston Base, you ready to ask a question? I see you back there. Give me the thumbs up if you're ready. All right, here we go. Go ahead, Boston Base.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up,
What
man?
makes you an expert? What makes you a fucking expert?
Yeah, man.
Who the fuck are you? Can't even see
you.
your eyes. What if you're AI? We don't know that.
Yeah, well, it's just like I said, I'm just the center of data for the stuff right now. I can just regurgitate probably the most stuff about what's been sold and what's out there.
Yeah. So what do you think of this Wemby? This is the only Wemby I have.
Oh, you tricking me to reveal my eyes? Which one? Oh, it's a baseball one. It's a sick one. What's the grade on that?
10.
Yeah. No, it's not bad.
I only collect 10s.
Yeah, it's a great place to start.
Oh, yeah, you got a little JT.
Yeah.
You're not a JT fan?
Nah. Pretty much Spurs through and through here.
Because like these are all JTs.
You got any Sean Elliott's in there, Boston Based?
I don't know if I have any Sean Elliott's.
I think that's what he wants to see.
These are actually all Jason Davis. Oh no, this is Dwayne Wade. But yeah, collecting's so much fun. She loves it. I love it. See, look. What do you think?
Not impressed.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I'm just hearing of you, so I guess you don't. You're not big in the Topshot world. You're not a big Topshot guy.
I'm mainly in the Spurs community on Topshot or the Spurs team group.
Right.
Like I don't really venture too far out of that, but I've been like following that. I got to go to a couple games with them last year. I was in the Houston group, or I'm still in the Houston group too, and got to go to a few of their events last season too. It's been, that stuff alone has kind of like made a lot of my like set chasing on Topshot worth it. Just like the free events, the prizes I've got from there and whatnot.
What about Nine Lives Lounge? You one of those guys?
No, haven't crossed that line yet.
I don't know about that. What do you think of that? We don't know.
She's not impressed. I think that's what we're getting from this. All right. Well, I think that's about
all
it.
I had. I was just coming in because you were so late. Got a lot going on. I guess
He got the time zone mixed up. Jeez, boss of base.
man.
I guess when I need someone to antagonize my guest, I'll just bring boss of base on.
I'll ask you. Do you think he's gonna beat Chet in the MVP rookie race?
I mean, yeah, I do. I'm not gonna say no. It's gonna be close, but I think he's gonna get it.
Yeah. Well, me and some of the other guys saw him this summer. He was presenting the new in-season tournament trophy, and he's a great guy. He met every single fan. He came back, met backstage, shook me by the hand, sucked my cock. It was a great guy.
He's a gentleman and a scholar.
Really nice guy.
Really generous guy. What do you guys think about? Actually, we'll finish there. What do you guys think about this play-in tournament? I want to see if there's any hot takes on that one. Do you guys like the play-in tournament idea?
I like it. I think a lot of fans are gonna be iffy on it at first, but it's gonna just entice some of the more low-hanging teams to like put on a show against some of the rivals or the better teams. It'll be nice. I don't think it's gonna mean much, but it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, I think these cups, they have to develop some history and some rivalries and stuff in order to demonstrate that they have any value. So the first one might not show any significance, but let's say a fight breaks out during this in-season tournament in Vegas, and then next in-season tournament next season, same guys are at it again, and it develops this sort of thing, and it gets some reputation or something like that. It's hard to judge it before it's even started. Having said that, I think it's a bunch of bullshit, but it's good to innovate in the Web3 space. So
all right. Well, I think that sounds like a great place to end the show. But anyhow, Boss of Base, thanks for showing up. Thank you for being here with your child. And Wemby 210, Andrew, thank you. And I take it people can find you on Twitter at Wemby 210 if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Wemby collectible news. But I guess that's it. Any final words?
No, Tandy, thanks for having me. Thanks for tolerating my tardiness. Sorry about that again.
It's all good.
Yeah, check out So Rare. And
all right. Well, thanks to you both. And until next week, take care.
Static Selector.